the long-awaited Zlin Savage Norden. They have been teasing us with this aircraft for the better part of a year, and it's finally making its debut now. All right, here at Oshkosh 2022, standing behind me, or sitting behind me, is an aircraft we've all been following. I've been following very closely on social the past year, and it's finally here on American soil. We're gonna dive right into the Norden, Savage Norden right now. All right, so here with Bill and Sport Air USA. Introduce yourself and kind of what you do and how you got started in this awesome aviation business.
My name is Bill Carnino. I have been 15 years the U.S. distributor for Zlin Savage Aircraft. This is our latest model. It's the culmination of 8 different models into one, and we think it really does represent the most cost-effective and best-performing aircraft in the industry.
So like I mentioned earlier, that I've been following this pretty closely on social media. They did a great job of building the hype on this aircraft. Some very unique things like an all-metal wing, which is a great thing not only from the builder's aspect of things, but just long-term ownership of being an aircraft owner. And then the awesome flaps. You want to talk about that? Let's jump right into that because that's a unique thing to this design.
Well, it's not unique to this design, but it's unique to the last couple of designs, which is how this occurred.
Okay.
It just took the best parts of the last models and added. They're large Fowler flaps. One of the problems with flaps is when you get really efficient, the nose gets higher and higher. So to offset that, we have leading edge slats that extend out of the wing electrically, and as you extend the slats, the airplane just levels off and the pressure on the stick goes to 0 and you're looking straight ahead at your landing area.
Okay, so that's the main benefit of those two working together,
yeah.
Is more of your line of sight to your landing spot.
Many
and the slower speeds.
Yes, yeah, slower speeds is what we're after, but many aircraft in the Zlin Savage line had slats, but they were external. And as you try to cruise, drag is astronomical. It goes straight up with no effort at all. So in this model, the slats completely retract into the wing, so you have a very simple wing form for cruising for any position.
And what does that do for this aircraft? Talking about completely clean versus completely dirty, what is the envelope there that changes?
Well, it really makes the aircraft a good cruising aircraft and at the same time a good STOL aircraft. Where previously the models that we had were great STOL airplanes, but they weren't that great at cruising because of the initial drag that you had those exposed slats
Sure.
into the airflow. And it just took more and more power, and finally they said, well, you know, we've got this development of this metal wing, it's time to get that. And they tested the slats for 30,000 cycles, which they consider about 10 years worth of use with no failures. And then they turned the wing vertical, set 2 of their workmen on it, and for an hour it set up and picked the workmen up. And as you grab the slats, they're solid. There's no looseness in them.
Okay. While we're on the topic of that, have you seen the internals of this? How does this construct? Are they actually tied together, or they work independently, or how does that?
They work not independently. They're working on the same bar, so that you can't have astrometrical that. You can have failure at any one point, but they'll fail wherever they are.
That's the main concern right there, correct?
Yeah. And it's one motor drive, and there's a metal panel on the other side of the fuselage that you have access to replace that motor.
Okay. Good stuff. Yeah, because you wouldn't want one to fail far forward and all the way back. That'd be a really bad situation.
No, and we worried about that. We said, well, what if you were in a turn and one of them extends? So you have to make a correction for that. So we said, no, let's just make the wing always do what you ask it to do. And if you need to adjust, you adjust. But you have control of what it's doing.
So what is the low end and the high end spectrum of the airspeeds this thing operates in?
From 30 to 140 V&E. Generally, I cruise about 115. If I'm really in a hurry and want to throw fuel at it, it's 120, but I can get that at about 6 gallons an hour, and that's good. Our standard engine is a Rotax 915, which is 141 horsepower, flat rated to 15,000 feet. So every airplane comes with that engine.
So it's turbocharged. If you're starting off at a very high altitude out west here in the States, then you've already got plenty of power on tap. And if you're not, then you've you've got plenty of even more.
Vortex tells us that at 4,500 feet, you're equal to a Lycoming 180, and from then on, you're flat rated, and a non-turbocharged engine will continue to suffer from higher altitude. So that's the reason for us to make it standards. U.S. is a big country. We vary from below sea level to 7,000 feet in field elevation, just the raw elevation, without having density altitude.
Sure.
So we stuck with this engine. It's the engine that our price point points to every time.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that. I went out west a while back, a year or two ago, and did some flying with Kevin Quinn and his Super Cub, and I was amazed as we taxied out right there at Truckee Tahoe, right? They've got this huge digital display of the current density altitude, and I think it was 9,500 feet.
Yes. And what you'll do is go full power and then start leaning your engine to get best power. So
yeah.
I got a simple throttle to just push it forward, and the two computers look at it and say, oh, I'll give you this.
We are partnering with great companies like Dynon Avionics at Dynon.com, Airtech Coatings at AirTechCoatings.com, AviNation Youth Magazine at AviNationUSA.com, the Aviators Clinic at AviatorsClinic.com. Take a moment to go visit their websites at the links found below in the description of this video. And visit our website at ExperimentalAircraftChannel.com for events, our video library arranged in easy-to-find playlists on specific topics, affiliate products, aviation merchandise, and so much more. All right, so while we're talking about the wing, let's go ahead and dive into the construction of that, other than the slats and the flaps and stuff like that. Being a metal wing, and there's different ways of going about things. Is this pop riveted, solid riveted?
The spar is solid riveted, and all the rest of the surface areas are pop riveted. It's a complete metal wing. All of the internal framing and spacers and ribs are metal, specially spaced to handle the loads that the stress of the slats put on them, as well as the flaps. You have to have enough horsepower and enough strength there when you load those big flaps down that it doesn't torque the wing, and those fittings can handle that loading.
Now, is this available only as an SLSA, or can you buy a kit to build this yourself as well?
It's available SLSA or ELSA, but not as a kit.
Okay.
For us to do a kit, the factory has 70 orders backed up, and we'd have to stop production, do a kit production, bring the kit to the U.S., get it certified as a kit, and then sell it. And so the kit's going to come out, but it'll be after the big balloon of the initial orders get done.
So at this moment, and your business model is basically ready to fly?
Ready to fly on all airplanes.
Okay, and we'll go more details this in the future here, but right now the current lead time is approximately?
About 6 months. It varies a little bit, sometimes almost weekly, that we'll find that there's a part that they can't get, and right now it's in Europe, Garmin parts are really difficult to find. So we're shipping Garmin parts to them for our airplanes that come back to the U.S.
Nice. Okay. So we got all aluminum wing. It is solid AN riveted on the spars as typical. It's pop riveted everywhere else on the skins. Moving to the fuselage, is it a mix of
fuselage
what construction?
Is a typical welded construction, 4130 with the front area from the cockpit forward is all metal with a fiberglass or carbon fiber cowling, and then fabric covered from there all over to the tail.
Paint-wise, is this like a standard offering, or is it totally customizable, and how do you kind of walk through that process?
Somewhat customizable. The factory has like 6 different versions. You can have any color you want, but
the graphic design is already kind of laid out.
The design. The owner is an Italian designer, and he's very choosy. He wants to make sure that his airplane looks good. I'm an architect, so I started making changes, and he said, oh, no, you're going to do it my way. And I thought, oh, you're the owner. I think I can understand.
So if you want something really wild, best to order this as plain as possible and have somebody do it when it gets here.
Order it in plain white and get your graphics on that.
Sure, which is an option.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. And so what is the empty weight and gross, what's the useful load of this thing?
The airplane is designed as an 1,800-pound airplane with a 1,000-pound useful load. Due to the restrictions of light sport, it's now held at 1,320 for the thing, or 1,430 for a float plane. And we do have aluminum floats for it.
Nice.
But average weight is around 875, so we don't quite meet our 500-pound or 1,000-pound, but we're very close to that. So if Mosaic ever turns loose and we have the new weight limits, it'll immediately become an 1,800-pound plane.
All right, so let's jump into the interior discussion here. Right away, I love the very light colors you all chose, or the designer chose for this, because it makes any smaller space look a little bit bigger versus a very dark interior.
Well, thank you. I picked the white. I'm not sure that I want to keep the white clean, but it is really nice and spacious inside, and it's plenty wide. There's a lot of room.
So first question would be, this is a Cub. Do you fly it from the front or the rear?
Fly it from the front seat, which out of that nice fiberglass seat right there.
Very nice.
All of the instruments and controls are available, although we do have dual controls standard for both the throttle and the stick and the trim and the brakes and the rudder.
And what do you have available to you as far as baggage, both weight and amount of space?
Standard baggage is a 45-pound limit right behind the passenger seat. But also we have a new sleeping carbon fiber floor that goes 7 foot 1 inches, so you can actually sleep in the aircraft by taking the back seat out and installing a carbon floor right here, which comes with that package. And you got 7 foot 1 from the back of the thing to forward.
Okay, and looking above me here, I see you've got a pretty much full-length Skylight Sunroof to be able to see in turns and so forth, and manual flaps.
Yes, the Skylight extends far enough down that in a tight turn you can see over the top of it, so you can see traffic. You do need to lift your wing before you look in it, because in a high wing for safety. But the flaps are manual. They've got a very large lever to get them, and it easily move. They've got a trick lock right here that lets them up, and they go all the way down. 3 settings for full flaps.
Okay. And I see we've got a great big door to be able to get in and out of it easily, and a window. Does the door have a window in it as well?
The door has a window in it, and the door and the window can be open. All of the external devices, the slats, the flaps, the window, and the door have the same airspeed limit of 75 miles an hour.
So I do remember seeing it online. Something was really promoted as the instrument panel. Talk to us about what we've got available.
Well, Pasquale Russo is the designer of the aircraft, and he was really adamant that this have a different instrument panel for several reasons. One, aesthetically, he wanted it to be balanced, and more importantly, he wanted to be able to see over the top and around the sides. One of the things about STOL is that you want to see obstacles, not so much in a landing area and a runway, but if you're going into a strange area you've never been before, you want the most visibility you can. So it's contained within a pod that is mounted, flexible as you can see, but it doesn't move in flight. And it's got a large Garmin 760 with touchpad on the middle for all of your navigation and look ahead needs. An engine monitoring system that keeps the pilots like me awake when things go wrong. Dual computers that are watching the engine itself. ADS-B in and out with a VHF radio with monitoring capability on it. And it's really quite pilot friendly without being overbearing. We offer an option of Garmin G3X, but many of our customers, after they've looked at this, says, well, I got most of the functions of the Garmin, even though it's not. I'll just live with what I have. And this is our standard panel, including the stick that's been designed just for the slats with a large push button to extend or retract the flaps and then trim up and down, included on it with a touch button for the front for the radio.
All right, wide angle shot here. Let's talk about the suspension on this.
Suspension is traditional bungees, they're standard.
Okay.
We do offer Acme shocks as an option.
Okay, so traditional bungees that kind of pull against each other. And what kind of travel do you have on these?
Gee, I can't tell you. It meets my landings, which is sometimes kind of hard.
Okay, and you were talking off camera for a second about the tires, like to start off on this size and progress to something bigger. Why is that, and what size are?
It comes with a reasonable size 22-inch tire, but it's not a complete bush tire. And our theory is that use this tire, learn to perform the airplane the way you want, and then put the bush tires on so you're not wearing those out when you're trying to learn something. The plane is not hard to fly, but any airplane that you're picking up and starting with, I wouldn't want to put the bush tires on and learn on those. I want to scuff that rubber doing something off the river, not on some runway somewhere.
Well, not only that, but I believe the smaller tires makes you a better pilot initially, because the big tires just absorbs all your mistakes.
They do, and I love that.
So what do you have for a tail wheel? Is it lockable?
No, it's a free swiveling tail wheel. It's an 8-inch typical, but obviously we have bush tail, bush wheel, baby bush wheel options for any size that you want. again, we want you to learn the airplane and then go improve it with other options to make your landing areas more accessible with a bigger, softer tire.
Sure, hot rod capable.
Yes.
All right, well, being that we're at the front of the engine, the airplane here, we've already talked about the engine. I haven't seen this configuration a whole lot. Talk to us about the prop and why they chose, this is a very thin or short cord.
We call this our 4-blade pencil thin mustache.
Okay.
Because it's very unusual to see a 4-bladed prop on a light plane, but this is such a small cord that the air of this next blade is not affected by it. So we've tried, the factory has tried many propellers, and they've taken this E-prop out of France and found it's the best one. E-prop is also preparing a constant speed or a multi-adjustable. This is ground adjustable.
Okay.
We'd like an air adjustable, but we don't want a constant speed prop. We'd like a, if we had a choice, a lever that says, I'm on takeoff, give me 5,800. I want to cruise, cut it down to 5,200. I only want two settings, not an infinite setting, because I really only need that, and it's only about 3 degrees different. So E-prop listened to that, and they're going to provide one to the factory for flight testing.
All right, now to the brass tacks. What does it cost to get in one of these? And you already mentioned it's about a 6 or 7 month lead time. What's the cost, and how do you get started in the process?
Well, you'd contact us, Sport Air USA in Little Rock, Arkansas. We have a website, and the website for this is savage.aero, savge.aero. It also has every option and every price on it, and we update that as we can. With a caveat that all the prices are in euros, because I have to buy it in euros and then do the exchange. The good news is at the current time, the dollar is very strong against the euro, and,
sure.
And here at the show, we're pricing this at $164,450, ready to fly. That's probably close to $165,000 or $170,000, maybe even a little less, depending on what the euro is today. And I'd also caution you that the euro you see on the internet is not the same euro that you can get when you exchange money unless you're moving $1 million. So many people call and say, well, I see the rate is this. And I'm, well, you know, that's not the rate I've got. Here's what.
So you're saying when I Google euro to dollar and put that number in, that's not accurate?
It's accurate for the internet, but it's not accurate. You can't find anybody that'll exchange money for that rate.
Okay.
They all have their own rates.
Okay.
And we've been working with someone for 8 years, and we trust what they're doing. They give us a good rate. We can also establish that rate for the life of the plane. The payments of the aircraft come in 25% at initial order, 25% when it starts production, 25% when it's mid-production, and 25% after it's finished.
Very good. Well, check them out online, and hopefully there'll be more and more of these flying around the country soon, so you'll be able to go to your local airport and check one out in person.
Savage Norden, savge.aero.